The ship was silent. Not the quiet of peace, but the dead hush of abandonment. Life support flickered on its last legs, the recycled air stale and thin. Pale emergency lights pulsed weakly across walls scorched by energy fire. Somewhere deep in its metallic gut, among shredded wires and empty crates, a small creature lay curled beneath a tattered thermal blanket. It didn't know how long it had been there. The Uvectians had left it. They'd said nothing, just dumped it during a hasty escape from a failed raid. No goodbye. No final insult. Just silence, and the shutting of a hatch. It had been too weak to follow. Even if it could walk, they wouldn't have let it. The runt. The albino. The malformed one. In a culture built on dominance, it was an embarrassment. Its fur, white and patchy, was dirty and matted. Each breath it drew was shallow, rasping through its narrow snout. The creature's body, too thin for its frame, trembled periodically from cold or hunger, it couldn't tell which. Every movement ached, every joint felt like fire. Hunger gnawed at it endlessly, but worse was the thirst. The kind that peeled consciousness away layer by layer. It had found a broken hydration tube days ago, licked the copper-flavored residue inside. Nothing since. The ship creaked. It listened. Not because it expected help. Instinct. Predators and prey alike knew that sometimes salvation had the same sound as danger. It remembered how the others had looked at it before leaving. Not with hatred, worse. With indifference. Like throwing out a broken tool. The creature remembered the moment it realized it wasn't going to die quickly. That was the worst. Not the pain, but the slow disintegration. Days passed in half-waking dreams. Images of home, no, not home, the training pens. Shock collars. Forced fights it had never won. Shame was bred into it. Weakness marked it for disposal. Not even death in battle. Just quiet suffocation among ghosts. Then a noise. Different. Mechanical, definite. Not part of the ship. A docking clamp locking. That had never happened before. It froze. One paw twitched toward the shattered crate it used for shelter. No strength left to hide. Footsteps echoed. Heavy, deliberate. Not Uvexian. Too slow, too loud. A voice followed, gruff, accented, and grumbling in a language it couldn't understand. Metal clanked as a figure moved through the corridor, light from a shoulder lamp sweeping across wreckage. The creature's eyes, milky and unfocused, narrowed. It had expected pain. Not this confusion. A new species. Human, though it didn't know that yet. Taller. Sturdier. The being moved with purpose, boots scraping against the grime-coated deck. It didn't know what to think. This wasn't a rescue ship. There were no sirens, no medics. Just one voice, speaking low and annoyed at some unseen machine. It tried to pull itself tighter. The crate gave away its presence, rattled when it moved. The human stopped. A soft curse, the click of something metallic being readied. Then a light. Bright and searing to its sensitive eyes. "The hell?" the human muttered, voice closer now. "You're still alive?" It didn't understand the words, but the tone wasn't mocking. Just surprised. Something in that puzzled it. Surprise was new. The human crouched. No move to kill. No retreat either. Just staring. Then the soft whir of a scanner, a robotic voice speaking readouts it couldn't comprehend. The creature tried to snarl, but it came out weak and wheezing. Pathetic even to its own ears. "Hurt, hungry, and—" "Albino?" the man muttered. Then again, this time lower. "You poor thing. What kind of bastards ditch a pup like you?" That tone. Not dominance. Not disgust. It couldn't name it. Something else. The human reached into a pouch, pulled out a silver ration pack. Tore it open. The smell hit the creature like lightning. Protein. Rich. Real. It recoiled on reflex, unused to gestures without violence. The human didn't press. He set the food down, slid it forward slowly, then backed away. Sat cross-legged across the corridor. No threat. No demand? Just waiting. The creature stared at the pack. Hunger screamed at it. Pride, what was left, held it back. Then it crawled forward. Every inch felt like a mile. It collapsed against the pack and tore it open with what little strength it had. The taste nearly made it cry. The human watched, silent. No gloating. No leash. Just watching. Somewhere inside, the creature felt something unfamiliar stirring. Not hope. Not yet. But less fear. It didn't trust this human. But it had survived another day. And for now, that was enough. Jack Mercer didn't care for drama. Ships were either scrap or salvage, and this one looked like both. Half the hull was scorched black, emergency beacons long dead. But the AI flagged it with a salvage claim, so here he was. Docked. Gloved. Suit sealed. Cutter on his back. He stepped through the breach like he had 1,000 times. Dead air, low pressure, old blood, typical signs of a bad day for someone else. His boots crunched broken glass from a blown HUD panel. No signs of life, just decay and old warnings in a language he didn't speak. The place had been abandoned in a hurry. Tools left mid-repair, ration packs spilled across the corridor, a medical injector dried up in the corner. He moved carefully. Low light, patchy life support. The kind of place that hid things desperate or dead. He wasn't here for confrontation. Just parts and cores. Maybe something rare to pay off dock fees back home. His AI, Blinky, flickered a schematic across his visor. Heat signatures were minimal. Mostly residual. But then a blip. Small. Faint. Still warm. Biological. Jack frowned. That's not rats, he muttered. The signal pulsed again, near the aft maintenance corridor. He adjusted course, more out of curiosity than concern. The thing didn't look alive at first. White, too thin, wrapped in a ripped thermal blanket like trash someone tried to hide. It looked like a starved dog had been dumped there. But as he stepped closer, it flinched. Eyes opened. Milky, alert. Watching him. Not dead. Jack stared. Well, shit. The creature tried to rise, but collapsed with a low, rattling sound. Bones jutted beneath its skin. Every breath looked like a losing fight. Jack scanned it. Data scrolled fast. Non-human species. Unknown subclass. Severe malnourishment. Oxygen deprivation. Organ failure imminent. Internal bleeding. No weapons. No implants. No aggression. It wasn't a threat. He could have turned around. Let nature finish the job. Nobody would blame him. Hell, nobody would even know. But he didn't move. Just stood there, staring at this discarded thing. Why'd they leave you? He said aloud, not expecting an answer. You broken? Too small? Not good enough for their war? The creature watched him with slow, half-lidded eyes. Not angry. Not pleading. Just waiting. Like it knew what usually came next. Jack opened his kit, popped a ration tube, and gently set it beside the creature. It didn't move. He pulled a portable oxygen patch and pressed it near what he hoped was its mouth. It twitched but didn't resist. Oxygen flow increased. Breathing steadied slightly. Blinky beeped. Life signs stabilizing. Medical intervention required within 72 hours for long-term viability. Jack exhaled through his teeth. He didn't need more mouths to feed. He barely had enough gear to keep his ship flying. But walking away felt wrong. I've seen enough bastards leave people behind, he muttered. I'm not adding my name to that list. He pulled out a medstick. High-nutrient compound, designed for emergency triage. Injected it near what his scanner flagged as a major vein. The creature jolted slightly, a weak growl escaping its throat. But then it sagged again, energy already burning through it just to survive another hour. Jack lifted it carefully, surprised by how light it was. Not a pound of fat on its frame. Bones like twigs. But beneath the dirt and matted fur, there was something oddly regal. He couldn't say what exactly. Just a feeling. All right, Ghost, he said quietly. Let's see if we can keep you breathing a bit longer. Back at the airlock, his ship's AI flagged contamination risks. He overrode it. Sealed off the medbay. Laid the creature down, hooked up basic stabilizers, nutrient flow, oxygen drip. Watched the vitals tick upward, slowly. Still not out of the woods. But not dying either. He leaned back, arms crossed. You're not just salvage, he said to the unconscious form. Someone threw you out like trash. But I don't do trash. Blinky beeped again. Subject has regained minimal neural activity. The creature's paw twitched. Eyes opened a crack. Jack didn't smile, but his voice softened. Yeah. You're gonna be alright, little ghost. You're with a human now. We don't leave our own behind. Ghost recovered slowly. At first, it couldn't move without pain. Every shift of its limbs sent sharp jolts through its nerves. It lay under thin blankets in the salvage ship's medbay, tubes in its side, eyes closed more often than open. But it was warm. Federal breathing air that didn't burn its lungs. Jack barely spoke the first day, just checked vitals and changed filters. When he did talk, it was to the ship or himself. Always direct. Never loud. Ghost learned to understand his tone long before the words made sense. No threats. No impatience. Just motion, sound calm. By the second day, Ghost could lift its head. The world remained a blur, but details sharpened. Lights above. The humming drone of life support. A steady beep tracking its pulse. Jack sitting nearby, working with tools, humming tunelessly under his breath. He offered food again. This time, Ghost took it without flinching. The first bite hurt. Chewing required muscles it hadn't used in weeks, but the warmth that followed spread through its chest like sunlight. Jack noticed and grunted approval. You've got a name? He asked. Ghost stared back. Blank. No translator, huh? All right. I'll call you Ghost. Suits the look. It didn't protest. It liked the sound. Short. Clean. Nothing like the guttural identifiers its own kind used, numbers, ranks, designations. Each day, it gained more strength. First standing. Then walking. Wobbling, falling, getting back up. Jack watched but didn't interfere. Ghost appreciated that. The pride of movement, however clumsy, was its own to earn. The AI installed a basic translator matrix. Speech remained difficult, but understanding came first. Ghost absorbed Jack's words like water, testing meaning against memory. Learning that engine meant the humming room. That scrap meant the twisted metal Jack prized. That junk was everything else. It asked its first question on the 7th day. Rough, rasped, clipped by a mouth never meant for human languages. Why help? Jack glanced over. Because someone had to. That, not reason. Jack didn't answer right away. Just leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head. I've seen a lot of folks throw away things they don't understand. Sometimes people. Sometimes themselves. Didn't sit right leaving you behind? Ghost considered this. Its kind didn't help the weak. Weakness was punished. Purged. There was no logic in saving something broken. No gain. You get nothing. I'm not here to get something. Ghost's head tilted. Confusion plain. Jack sighed. Look, where I'm from, we don't just let people die because they're inconvenient. At least, we try not to. Ghost stared at the floor. That made no sense. Not from a survival standpoint. Not from any known code of behavior. I was not worth saving. Says who? Ghost hesitated. All. Then they were all wrong. The quiet between them stretched. Ghost couldn't speak. Not because it didn't want to. Because it didn't know how to answer something like that. The next day, Ghost began helping with repairs. Clumsy at first. Drop tools. Misread instructions. Jack corrected with patience, not scorn. When it connected two wrong terminals and nearly shorted the console, he didn't yell. Just unplugged the unit and started over. You'll get it. You've got a good head. Strong grip, too. Not strong. Strong's more than muscles, Ghost. That stuck. Ghost mulled over that phrase for hours. More than muscles. What else could strength be? Jack started telling stories while they worked. Short, sharp ones. About battles he'd seen, repairs that saved lives, captains who went down with ships, civilians who stood their ground. He never boasted. Just shared. Ghost listened intently, committing each one to memory. They were different from the tales it knew. Those had always ended with dominance, death, or exile. Jack's ended with resilience. By the end of the second week, Ghost spoke more. Not fluid, but clear enough. Humans value weakness? No, Jack corrected. We value what others throw away. Because sometimes that's where strength hides. Ghost nodded slowly. Its chest ached, but not from injury. From something else. Something unfamiliar. Not fear. Not shame. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't broken beyond repair. And Jack never looked at it like it was. 3 weeks in, Ghost no longer resembled the half-dead creature Jack had found. It still bore the scars, still limped slightly on its left leg, but it stood taller. Eyes brighter. Movements sharper. Muscle was returning, slow but steady, under the white fur. It didn't ask to be called strong. It worked toward it. Jack noticed. He didn't say much, but every time Ghost completed a task without guidance, his grunt of approval meant more than any praise. The ship, once silent, now echoed with clipped dialogue. Ghost asked questions constantly. About tools, about systems, about words it didn't understand. Jack answered all of them, often with a smirk. Curiosity, he said one evening. That's something they didn't beat out of you. That's good. Ghost didn't respond, but something in its posture relaxed. Then came the signal. A distress call, faint and pulsing from deep space. Old encryption. Human code. Jack read it twice, jaw tightening. Civilian freighter, he muttered. Auto beacon. No follow-up. Could be pirates. Could be worse. Ghost stood behind him, reading the screen. The words meant less than Jack's body language. His hesitation. You go? I don't leave people stranded, Jack said. Danger? Maybe. Ghost didn't ask if Jack was afraid. He didn't look afraid. Just tired. Focused. I go too. Jack turned. You sure? Yes. You might have to fight. I will. Jack stared a moment longer, then nodded once. They reached the freighter in 12 hours. It drifted in a lazy spin. No response to hails. Hull breached on the starboard side. Jack prepped gear. Ghost, now used to the rig, suited up beside him. No trembling. No second-guessing. Inside, the freighter was chaos. Gravity down. Lights out. Blood along the walls. They moved carefully. Jack took point, weapon drawn. Ghost followed, ears flicking at every sound. They found the crew in the medbay. 2 survivors. 1 unconscious. The other, barely conscious, raised a weak hand at their approach. Raiders, she rasped. They took our cargo. Left us. Jack moved quickly, stabilizing the wounded. Ghost watched, then stepped into the corridor. Something felt wrong. Too quiet. Then he saw it. A flash of movement near the engine hold. Wrong posture. Wrong heat signature. Not human. He signaled Jack with a sharp bark, learned from drills. Jack responded instantly, weapon up, moving to cover the medbay. 3 figures emerged, armed fast. Not pirates. Mercs. Cleaning up. Jack opened fire. Ghost moved without thinking. Fast, low, silent. The first attacker didn't see the white blur until claws ripped the weapon from his hands. The second raised a rifle, but Ghost's shoulder slammed into his chest before he could fire. The third aimed for Jack, too slow. Ghost's claws slashed across his visor, sending him reeling. They didn't kill. Jack never said not to, but Ghost understood the line. Disable. Disarm. Defend. Jack finished it, stunning the last one. The mercs lay sprawled. Breathing. Bleeding. Harmless. Jack exhaled, checking the corridor. You okay? Ghost nodded once. You moved like a damn shadow. Ghost didn't smile. It didn't know how. But it felt something sharp and warm rise in its chest. Not pride. Something deeper. A sense of place. They secured the survivors, called in a med ship, and returned to Jack's freighter. Neither spoke for a long while. Eventually, Jack leaned back in the cockpit. You didn't hesitate. No. Why? You taught me. Jack let that sit. You're more than what they left behind, he said finally. Ghost looked out the viewport. Stars slid past in endless silence. I am not like them, it said. No, Jack agreed. You're better. Ghost didn't argue. It didn't doubt. Not anymore. It had fought. It had protected. It had chosen. And for the first time, it belonged. The medship departed quietly, leaving Jack's freighter alone in the drift. Ghost watched from the viewport as the stars swallowed its silhouette. It felt no fear of abandonment this time. No echo of old panic. What had once been a cage of instinct and conditioning had fractured completely. The silence didn't press down like it used to. It breathed with it now, moved through it like part of the ship. Jack had resumed normal routines. Maintenance. Scans. Spare part inventory. But there was an unspoken shift. They worked not as master and recovered stray, but as equals. Ghost took initiative. Repaired NAV systems. Ran diagnostics. Rewired damaged circuits before being asked. Not to prove itself. Simply because it could. Jack noticed. Always watching. Always cataloging growth with quiet approval. One evening, he brought out a data core from a salvage crate. Old, rusted, but not unreadable. Ghost watched as he connected it to the ship's console. Lines of alien script scrolled. It recognized the language immediately. Its people's war logs. Tactical reports. Recordings. Jack tapped a few keys, opened a visual feed. A dark room. Cold light. Figures standing in formation, armor gleaming under surgical brightness. A handler speaking in clipped tones. This one failed again. Malnourished. Suboptimal regeneration. No tactical aggression. Suggest decommission. Ghost didn't flinch. Jack looked sideways at it. This you? Ghost nodded. You remember? Yes. Jack let the silence stretch before he shut off the feed. They were blind. Ghost's jaw tightened. They were correct. Then. They didn't wait long enough to see what you could be. I was not made to be more. You weren't made. You were born. They just forgot that part. The statement lodged deep in Ghost's chest. No rebuttal came. It wasn't rejection, it was realization. For all their technology and precision, its creators had missed the most human truth: potential isn't always immediate. Growth isn't always visible at first glance. Later, Ghost stood in the cargo hold, staring at its reflection in a polished hatch. It tilted its head, inspected the lengthening frame, the thicker limbs, the eyes that no longer scanned rooms for exits. Not prey. Not property. Person. Jack entered behind it, holding a box. Got something for you. Ghost turned. Jack placed the container on a crate, opened it. Inside, gear. Custom-fit armor plating. Lightweight. Flexible. Integrated tools. Designed not for war, but for survival, assistance, repair. Something between a technician's kit and a rescue unit's harness. You earned this. Ghost stepped forward. Fingers grazed the material. Not decorative. Practical. Built for function. Every stitch, every clasp said one thing: you're not going back to what you were. You give name. You give purpose. You give this. Jack crossed his arms. Didn't give you anything you didn't already have. Just helped you see it. Ghost looked down at the armor again. It slid the pieces on, slow and deliberate. Not a ceremony. A choice. Jack smiled faintly. Fits. Yes. You staying? Ghost nodded. No hesitation. It could have left. Could have searched for others of its kind, demanded answers, carved a path through the galaxy in search of meaning. But it had found something rarer. Not a mission. A place. You're not just crew now, Jack said. You're family. The word hit harder than anything else. Ghost had no definition for it before Jack. It had never seen it, never felt it. Now it understood. Family meant staying when others fled. Fighting when others gave up. Healing what others threw away. Then I protect this ship, Ghost said. I protect you. Jack offered a short nod. That's the deal. As the ship resumed course, stars stretched across the viewport like threads of light. Ghost sat beside Jack in the cockpit, silent but steady. The war logs, the labs, the orders, those were fragments. This was whole. And for the first time in its existence, Ghost was not recovering, not rebuilding, not surviving. It was living.